Welcome back to Trapeze Talk here on Circus Nation TV Network. I'm here today with my ordinary guest, Tony Steele. You guys have seen him quite a bit on this show, but today, Tony, we have a very special guest that's over the top this time. You got started in the trapeze business, but to be a flyer, you got to have a catcher.
That's true.
Would you like to introduce our very special guest today?
I would. I first worked with him when I started in 1951, and he was the catcher in the Flying Lamars with Harry Lamar and J.R. Fenton, and his name is Chuck Imig.
Welcome, Chuck. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you very much. I'm surprised I'm here. It's been a long time.
Well, how long has it been since you've seen Tony Steele?
I've been married 60 years, and it's 2 years ahead of my marriage. So that's how I count.
62 years ago.
62 years. This is quite a reunion.
It is. And I'm glad to see him, and he looks good, too.
Yes, he does.
You look pretty damn good yourself.
There you go.
Well, tell us how you and Tony got involved in trapeze together.
I guess I could tell it my way, and he might correct me, but one day somebody appeared and said he had a son that was doing funny things like standing on his hand on top of the church steeple, and he wanted to get him into something that was a little better than that. So he says, "Can you use him?" And Harry says, "Yeah." So he took him in, and the first time I saw him was there. He just dumped him in.
No
And
kidding. So now,
was,
Tony, was this when you were 15 years old?
I was 15, yeah. And they put me in the act as a clown, and I had to do tricks that were really scary. One of them is called a back jump. You turn around, you have your back to the catcher, you can't see the catcher, and you go up and you let go, and he catches you around the chest.
And you were that catcher who caught him.
Yeah, I didn't dare miss him.
Oh. Well, what other tricks of Tony's did you catch?
Well, mostly the clown tricks, except we tried a somersault in 1.5, as I remember. Mm-hmm. He got heavy afterwards, but where we tried to learn tricks at, I'm going to say it was Pine Island Park at Nashua, New Hampshire.
Uh-huh.
Over the water when we had all afternoons off and didn't know what to do, and kids had to do something, so we tried tricks on this trapeze. Somebody hung out over the water, no mosquitoes on it, and anyhow we said, let's, every trick that I thought I knew he tried, and he just doing good. And finally, as I remember, and what he said later, the first time he did was triple, was over the water, because it's innocent when you hit the water, it just hurts a little is all. And so passing leaks and 2.5 and things like that. And the only trick that we never tried, I always felt bad about it, Harry Lamar did it so wonderful, is he'd come back to the catcher, stand up in the air, and just float over, laid out. So it was laid out, twisting somersault, just floating in the air. And at this time, with all this emphasis on space, that weightless look at that thing would be a wonderful trick. You could do it a little higher and just float down. About time for 2 doubles and catch it, and it would be just sitting right there, floating out and going right on. But we never got to that. Sorry about that. It's still a good trick to try today.
Well, that sounds like a magical memory. What other memories do you have with Tony and flying? Did you have an extensive route?
Yeah, we had one of the old routines through New England. What do they call it? Where they had the vaudeville shows and stuff like that. And Harry Lamar had a relationship with a guy, and that was the route we carried through there, one of the old vaudeville routes.
No kidding.
So we'd go to one place, another place, but for years before it would have been vaudeville things, and then the circus got in, and that was our route.
Well, guys, what years were these?
1951, is that right?
I think so.
Yeah, you were 15 and 51.
And it was just the one season.
For you, yeah.
Yeah, for me it was just one season, but he worked with Harry Lamar and J.R. Fenton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, besides Tony, what other flyers did you catch in your career?
After Tony, I think it was a Christian. You know Christian?
Bob Christians?
Yeah.
Yeah, we know him very well, yeah.
You know him very well?
Very good friend of John's, yeah.
Is that right? You know, we did all right, but what I realized was when he was doing the somersault, he had a hell of a time hanging on to the catcher. And I said, you know what you're doing? You're not doing the somersault, you're just doing a handstand out there. And nobody can hold you like that. He was thinking if he comes down on the catchers like this and he comes down like this, that'd be beautiful. But you hit the bottom and you're gone.
Well, it sounds like you were a great coach as well as a great catcher.
Protecting myself.
Now, besides the Lamars, did you work with any other flying acts?
Well, I caught all the flying acts that come through Bloomington. But the
Bloomington, Illinois?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was everybody at that time. Maybe 20 or so. When everybody their catchers come in and did their routine and took off to the bars, I caught all the rest of them for all the evening until they got tired. And so, I don't know, maybe 50 people altogether,
Oh my.
including learners.
Okay.
But then I worked for Charlie Segrist. That was my first job.
Okay.
And he and his wife, Helen. And then we had 2 other guys that came and went. But Helen had, the other guy had to have it doing a 1.5 and not opening his knees. And you know that hurts.
I'm sure it does.
So what I did is I took both knuckles, and when he did it, I hit him right here. And you know, that hurts too. So he only did that one more time, and the legs were far apart.
I can imagine. Well, that's one way to teach.
It was a good way.
Or put a helmet on.
And once I realized you're supposed to catch, I lost very few tricks. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
The only trick that I never got is Harry would say, I'm going to do a 2.5, and everybody go, oh, Harry's going to do a 2.5. And he never let anybody teach. And it worked on me.
Okay.
I'd even almost come out of the catch trap to get that thing, and still he was pull it sharp. That was funny.
And he was, what, like 65, 66
Yeah, he wasn't
years
quite
old
very-
at that time.
Yeah,
And what
Yeah.
was your age at that time?
a lot younger. I don't know what it is.
Well,
You do the math.
you guys were talking about tricks. Do you have a favorite trick that you would always catch? One that you looked forward to and you were hoping everybody would throw across to you?
If I do, it's a joke. It was the passing leap because that was the end of the act.
Well, now besides Tony, because I'm sure he is, do you have a memorable flyer? One of your favorites? 2 of your favorites?
I think Tony is, in a sense, although we didn't do big tricks. But 2 or 3 other guys, Billy Ward, who did tricks, not any more than anybody else did. He did a double and flifuses and things like that. But when he got through the trick, he looked like it was the hardest thing in the world to do. And everybody would really applaud.
Okay.
And then some of them were slicker and did better and a lot neater and didn't get the applause.
What's your most memorable location that you performed in, whether it was a park or a building?
It was the Tennessee State Fair,
And why is that?
because J.R. Fenton, when he come back and lit on the board, started playing around and fell off, and come down and hit the net and fell out on the floor
No.
and knocked himself out cold. So there's thousands of people, and I'm up swinging back and forth, and I don't have a damn thing to do. So I looked down and I said, the act's over. So I dropped down and picked up J.R. Fenton, and I picked him up in my arms.
You did
Started
it.
walking out, and he says, he'll be all right. And I go, he's all right.
Oh,
So he was.
wow.
That stuck in my mind a little bit. That was a little hasty on my part.
Wow. Wow. That is quite the memory.
Yeah.
What an experience.
Yeah.
JR was a twister. He did everything with a twist. He did a hawk stop with a full twist. He did a 1.5 pirouette across, 1.5 pirouette back. And what else did he do? He did everything with a full twist.
The classic thing we did, it was a pirouette and a half over, a pirouette in the hands, and then a pirouette and a half back.
Uh-huh.
The pirouette in the hands, if you're on a, what do you call that, with a cradle, you can do it. But you go out and do the pirouette at the end, and he's gone. So we had to throw him in and up. So he did a pirouette and come down, and we caught him. He did a pirouette and a half back.
I remember that. Yeah.
That was quite a trick.
Sounds remarkable.
Yeah.
Well, Tony, tell us a little bit about your experience with him. You were a kid, Tony, when you first met him. What was it like?
Well, the thing that sticks out in my mind the most is being a clown. I used to walk around the park acting goofy, and the people thought, you know, it was a crazy person that I'd run and come in the act. But I did one trick, was just a straight jump, hanging upside down with my butt in his face. And I bought one of these things called a razor, you know, and I thought he had a sense of humor, which I found out he didn't. So I did that, and when I was upside down, I went, and he didn't like that, so he threw me out in the apron.
Oh, in front of the live audience.
I don't
Yep.
remember that.
I remember it.
Yeah, good. I wish I could brag about that. I would.
Yeah, you didn't think that was funny. You just went. I went. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Chuck, how long was your career in showbiz?
About 7 or 8 years, but only really 2.5 professionally.
Okay.
The rest of the time was just picking up loose ends on the trapeze. I'd be up on that trapeze on Saturday and Sunday for 7 or 8 hours. Not having, I got so that was a restful place to sit. I'm rocking back and forth all the time.
And what happened after this career? Did you become a coach, or did you shift careers completely?
I shift. My wife told me to hang up my tights. We looked around, and I thought that most of the people that are made a career out of it didn't stay married.
Okay.
And so that wasn't what I wanted. And so I succumbed to her wishes. Only now and then I say that was wrong. Mostly it was, because 60 years later is a long time.
Been married 60 years.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, yeah.
And somebody said, how did that happen? I said, I made a horrible mistake.
What kept you busy, though, besides those 60 years of nuptials? How did you put food on the table?
Yeah, well, for a while I was going to school, and I kept going to school, and I got a bachelor's degree and a doctor's degree, and then I started working as an advisor for a Panamanian government, and then
What was your doctorate degree in?
it was in psychology and education.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So you went from the circus to psychology.
Well, I had a bachelor's degree in psychology anyhow, so
Okay.
I
Any
moved
any reason for that? Did you see
you
a
know,
lot
I wanted
of
to be an
camaraderie?
engineer when I first started in college, and my friend's father was a psychologist, and I liked him, and the advisor at the school wrongly says, you can't be an engineer. All these people are getting out of the Army, and they're all going to be engineers. There'll be no work. You know what happened? The opposite. That's why I don't trust education anymore. Often people that don't know what they're doing call them wrong, and then they're gone, and what are you going to do?
Okay.
So I still like engineering,
Okay.
and then I like psychology too. So after that, I went on as an advisor of the Panamanian government, which I dearly love, and I was advisor on administration on aging, what to do with older people,
Okay.
and research and demonstration. And finally, I ended up going with the Indians in the west part of the United States, working on community development.
No kidding.
And I went from there. The Alaska Claims was starting, and a guy came down and he says, we want somebody to cover in video the claims for the Alaska Claims. And I said, and they said, can he do it? And the guy says, yeah, he can do it. So I went up there and recorded all the meetings and hearings. Now, unfortunately, it's just meetings and hearings. But I was a one-man band, and in Alaska, where I had to carry every battery, every tape, everything around, it was quite a miraculous to do, to go all the villages with no electricity and get it all done. So I have a library of some 5,000 tapes
Oh, goodness.
of the hearings at what caused Alaska to settle this claims. Now, unfortunately, I should have known, nobody wants it. They say, well, they're going to show me when I was young, and I wasn't too good then, so let's not do that.
But it sounds like you became a master videographer.
I think I'd call myself that, yeah.
And I would like to know what you think of the videos we're producing here on Circus Nation TV Network.
I think it's wonderful. I think probably what you have to have is a gimmick.
Okay.
Or something that makes it stand out. And it's not hard to do. I wouldn't say Circus Soleil, but some, maybe more of the personal things about how you get it and what's pitfalls along the way and the human stories.
Sure.
Because that's what we're all short on where do people go now.
Okay.
And getting people into things they can really understand. And a lot of things you learn in circus are amenable to other things you do, so
Correct.
it'd be wonderful to do that with the human interest. And you start asking people what they'd like to know about the circus and then put that in the program.
Well, I feel like your visit today is going to be a huge help in contributing to the life stories
Well, that would be nice.
and special human interest pieces, because you certainly are one of them.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for coming on our Trapeze Talk
Thank you,
show today.
and thank you for getting me together with my buddy here after all these years.
Oh, you're
Never
welcome.
did forget you. Get that damn razzmatazz out of there.
Come back next time on Trapeze Talk, right here on Circus Nation TV Network.
We're from the Flying Lamars. I'm Circus Nation.
And I'm Circus Nation.